Shane, welcome to Millionaire University. I'm excited. We're going to have such a cool conversation today. I think I've had a challenge accepted. You said like I probably wouldn't be able to stop you. You're comfortable where you're sitting, but so am I. I've hosted hundreds of these episodes, so let's see if we can,
I know
what's going to happen.
this is going to be interesting. I told you that you couldn't stump me, and the minute I said that, you smiled, and I thought I shouldn't have said that. I probably should not have said that because you didn't even flinch. You're like challenge accepted, and I was like, wait, what did I just say? Darn it! I was like, how are we going to go back on this? So if she stumps me, folks, then there we are. I thought I was unstumpable. I was until this podcast. I will tell you, I've been on hundreds of podcasts, unstumpable. But today I might have met my match. So we'll see.
We'll
See
see.
here in a little bit. Yeah.
It's not really my goal. I just love to be where I'm sitting and ask the questions for our listeners. I know we have so many people who are learning things for the very first time, or they're just needing principles really, hammered in as hard as we can. So we probably won't stump you, but let's talk about what it is we're going to be even discussing today. And I want to hear a little bit about how you even landed on what you're doing. You're an entrepreneur. You've probably launched and done lots of different things. So why Trace Fuse? Tell us about all of that. Give us the backstory.
Yeah, so I have a long history of entrepreneurship, mainly online. Used to own a bar in Chico, California. I mean, I've done a lot of different things. Had a company I brought to about $25 million and had 130 employees. That was in the real estate
Wow.
space. So I've done a lot of stuff. Now, once again, we don't have enough time to talk about the businesses that I've failed on, right? I don't make it seem like I have nothing but glorious things to talk about. But I think the value of it is the things you win, the wins and the losses, I think are important, right? I mean, that really builds us to who we are today and the things that we can do. So Trace Fuse was interesting because I had always wanted to do like a SaaS-based product. I had a lot of friends that were doing SaaS-based products, but I also really didn't want to do anything in the SEO space and influencer marketing. I knew a lot of the people that were in that space. It was a little crowded. When I first did influencer marketing way back in the day. In fact, I taught at UCLA, which is another fun fact. We helped create the curriculum over there at UCLA. By the time I said, hey, I want to do a software, I kind of felt like there was a lot of companies that were already doing that and very successfully. And a lot of those were my friends. So it's like, to go and compete with them, it's like, I don't know. I figured, hey, there's probably other ways that I can figure things out. Well, I've always done service-based products, right? Or service-based businesses. And so what I wanted to do was a SaaS-based thing. And so that's where, Trace Shoes came about is I was working with clients in the e-commerce space. And a lot of them were in Amazon. And I was like, hey, what are some of the common issues that you guys have, right? And so I was really doing this for qualifying to see if they were good customers or whether they're having other issues, and maybe I can, have other people that I know that can assist them in the things. This is obviously after we built some rapport and they were signed up with us for, whatever, doing SEO or content marketing. And everybody was saying, hey, we have big problems with reviews,
Mm.
And I thought, oh man, this is like, honestly, at my being maybe I had a little ego. I was like, oh, removing reviews, like, oh, we could figure that out. That's going to be a no-brainer. Like, that's, here, hold my beer. It's just, I'm going to go in and figure this out. Give me about an hour or two and we'll knock it out. Didn't really think it was going to take an hour or two, but thought maybe like a month or something. We jumped in, and there's a reason, there's a big reason why nobody had cracked the code until we did. It took us about 2 years.
Wow.
We did a lot of testing. Yeah, we had buyers accounts that we were filing cases on and doing things. It was just it's a challenging system. Amazon's a great company. Obviously, they're huge, and they have a lot of moving pieces. And there's certain places where they're going to focus their time and energy and resources. And the review thing, I do believe they do everything they can to stop reviews up until a certain point. And then if those don't get stopped, then great. Then we kind of take over after that, right? I mean, they're kind of the first line of defense. And what we really go after are reviews that are against Amazon's guidelines, so their own rules. So that could be, anybody's cussing or mentioning competitors or anything like that. And then also fraudulent stuff as well. So we're looking at things that maybe where somebody came and attacked one of our clients and gave them a 1-star review 5 times in a row, which is just not how we work as consumers, right? I mean, if you go and buy a product and you hate it, you're not going to go buy 4 more. I mean, there's clearly something wrong there. Then we look at the buyer's accounts and see if they bought a product from a competitor that has a similar product. And then we file escalation cases with Amazon. So that's one example. But yeah, Trace Juice was kind of like, I thought it was going to be easy. I just really did. I really thought maybe a month or two, and this is awesome. Nobody can figure it out. And you have to realize like there is huge value if you can figure something out that other people can't figure out. I mean, that's, when you have a very, I'm not going to say a monopoly, but we definitely are the only company we've removed over 13,000 reviews for our clients and 500 clients. So we are absolutely big. When we started doing this, the funny part about it is that people didn't think that it was possible because reviews reputation management can be a little bit of a people sometimes gray hat. When we talk about, white hat being, fully legit and not a problem. Gray hat, you're kind of riding the line a little bit, and black hat is like, hey, I'll do anything to make a dollar. Right. And that happens the same thing with like SEO space where I grew up in. It's, you see a lot of that. But so, yeah, so we just, I was a little naive. Like I said, it took about 2 years to crack the code, but we filed a lot of cases and learned how to file cases correctly with Amazon and the right things that you need to do. And I'm sure we'll probably talk about that journey today, but it took 2 years. I like I said, and thought it was going to be easy. We're still the only company that can do it. Which once again, I don't expect that to always be the situation. I'm not naive, I just should knock on some wood probably, but I'm sure somebody will come and crack the code and figure it out. But I can tell you that 2 years was not just like an hour a week type situation. We were working on it almost full time to try to figure it out. So there was a lot of nuances to filing cases with Amazon. It's not just clicking a report button and filing a case. There's a lot of moving pieces to that. And if you mess up on one piece, it's like building a house, right? If your foundation is not great, you start building your house. Well, guess what? Eventually there could be some problems. And so that's kind of the analogy that I always use, in regards to this.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh. I mean, let's talk about resiliency a little bit and delusional confidence that I think all entrepreneurs have to have, right? It can serve us so well to, like, I think there would be so many less problems solved if we didn't have that delusion to think this will be simple, this will be easy. It's harder to get back up after you realize, realistically, now I know things that are worth doing are going to take probably twice as long, 10 times longer than I think. But I'm glad that it served you in this specific instance. I'm curious, just for maybe listeners want to know, you mentioned you were doing other things for your clients at the time. So did that sustain financially as you were building this? Because 2 years to a startup that doesn't have any kind of incoming funds, that's why a lot of problems don't get solved. There just still needs to be cash flow. So what was going on in that instance?
Yeah. So what you're asking me is, was I still able to put cheese on my burgers?
Yes.
No,
yes.
no. I didn't have any cheese left to put on my burgers. I was using Velveeta and anything that my son, who was in college, would be able to donate to me for my cause. All joking aside, there was obviously I had a very profitable business at ShaneBarker.com, which is my main business, is my own personal brand, obviously, and where we have, I think, over maybe 800 or 1,000 articles on that website. So I started probably 12 years ago. And really the goal with that site was just to educate, people, agencies, entrepreneurs on how to do marketing better. And I was one of the first that really started a blog and really started just disclosing everything we were doing, which really a lot of marketers are reaching out and going, hey, what are you doing, dude? Like you're telling everybody like how we do things. And I'm like, yeah, because I figure I'll educate. And they're like, that's really a dumb idea because why wouldn't they just go do it? And I was like, well, listen, if you can't share some ideas, and if you're worried that somebody's going to go steal your ideas and do it better than you, then you're really not that good at what you do, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Like I can download 1,000 ebooks, right? I mean, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to implement it the way that we can. There's still other knowledge that goes into that, the ways to, things that we've done to, bang our head against a wall, or, things that make it so that it's going to be a harder road to be able to be successful. Well, obviously it's better to hire the people that have already done it, right? If they write the ebook and know how to do it, assuming you have the capital to do that, that's usually a better way to go. Now, if we were talking to Shane 20 years ago, I was like, oh, I got it, I'll do it myself. Now I'm like, I can't wait to outsource things to people that are smarter than me. I mean, that really should be your goal down the road. That was a big thing growing up. I didn't realize the value of that, right? I was kind of like, oh, okay, like I got it. I'm an entrepreneur. Look at me, hear me roar. I'll work 20 hours a day. I have no problem with that. And I didn't. And I'm going to figure things out. And I was like, man, imagine if I would have figured this out 6 months ago and hired somebody, how much time would I have saved? So when regards to your question, yes, I had money coming in at Shane Barker. We had a very profitable business there. Things were going well there. And so that was feeding Trace Views. At the time, it was called Sell It Tech. We had an agency that we started, and we broke it off so it would be its own separate product. But yeah, it wasn't great. I'll be honest. I mean, developing something and working on something for 2 years is delusional. Is absolutely. I was on I've never done acid, but I'm assuming that's probably what it feels like, where money's just going out. I don't know. For all my people that do acid, good luck out there. But I was like one of those things, honestly, really close to 2 years. I was like, dang it, I should not have done this. Maybe I'm too delusional. Maybe I should just go be a barista at Starbucks or something.
Confidence is waning.
Yeah. I was
We're
like,
losing our fuel.
yeah, exactly. My wife's like, so how much longer are you going to do this? And I was like, I don't know. We're really close. And then she's like, I heard that a year ago. And I'm like, because we were close then too, I thought. So, shout out to my wife too for putting up with my delusional activities. But, and that's personal life and business life. But, yeah, we did crack the code. And that was, once that happened, it was that aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, as an entrepreneur, and I think we all go through this, is at what point do you pull the plug, right? And so delusional and, perseverance and all this kind of fun stuff. But at the end of the day, there's also a time I've talked to people where I'm like, hey, like, how much longer are you going to ride this thing out, whether it be financially or, the physical toll it takes or the mental toll, like there is time. Some people say, oh, you just keep going. Okay, that could make sense, assuming that, how long does that mean? Does that mean another week?
Yeah.
Is that 2 weeks? Is that 10 years? Like, at what point do I go, hey, maybe this isn't one for me, right? I've already taken enough punches and hey, maybe I got to figure something else out. So what is that? When is that timeline, right? When do you say, hey, I'm going to do this for 6 months and give it a try, right? Or no, this is 2 years or whatever. We cracked it after 2 years and then we went to market. And the crazy part is everybody was like, this isn't possible. Like I had big sellers that were selling on Amazon for 15 years that were like, yeah, reviews can't get removed. Like, it's like, I know that firsthand because I've hired VAs and I've done this and I've done that and nothing's ever happened. And so, that was a difficult road for us because we were like, hey, we spent 2 years doing this. And so, to try to get the first clients on the people that are, I don't say the scapegoats, but the people that are like willing to give you the opportunity to show them what you can do. The funny part is we had no reviews that had ever been removed other than obviously when we were testing. And now we've removed 13,000. And so we've gone to this interesting space where before they didn't think it was possible. And now they see that number, they go, that's not possible either. So I don't know how to win. It's like either it was zero or it's 13,000. But the good part is we've gotten tons of exposure from that, right? Like great, all of our customers, we have about 13 video testimonials from clients that have had great results with us. So we've been able to build the brand and now we're the company that everybody goes to. Now, when I talk to people, they refer people to me and I don't even know the people that are referring them to me, which is pretty interesting.
That's when you've made it.
Yeah, that's awesome because, I also want to thank those people, right? Because like if you're referring somebody to me and you're putting really your name on the line, and it's not really on the line, but it is, they've never met me, right? It's like they'd met me and seen a demo and had success with other clients. And of course they're going to refer people because, we're going to have to be successful and good things will happen. But to blindly refer is awesome. Like I really, that because I'm being the owner, I do actually have my own demos. And I do that because I enjoy talking with sellers and that helps me build a better product. Because I can ask them questions knowing that, hey, we want to come out with new things, new features. And so I really enjoy that side of it. Plus, I enjoy helping sellers. Like anytime we can crush it for a seller and they come back and say, hey, you saved my Prime Day or you saved Christmas because you helped us remove these reviews and get our sales back up. Because what we do is reviews. That is the lifeline of Amazon. So everything ties into review. You have terrible reviews, you're going to have terrible sales, you're going to have a high PPC cost, you're going to lower social proof. There's so many things that play into that. Some sellers are not naive to it, but they don't think that it has that much value. The other ones that have been around say, hey, I get it. I didn't think it was possible. Now that I know it's possible, hey, let's move and shake, right? Let's go in and get make good things happen. So, it's been a journey. It's been a fun journey.
Cool. Okay, you mentioned some terminology and just some of the other things, the byproducts of having those negative reviews. Can you go deeper into that? Because we might have people right now who are selling on Amazon. They've looked into that as an option for a side hustle or a business that they want to build. So can you break down exactly how negative reviews impact sellers beyond just the obvious loss of a sale?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have on Amazon, there's a few things that Amazon looks at. Actually, there's a lot of things, but I'll give you the main points. So a BSR is the bestseller ranking. So what that means is, think of it as like, if you're number one for Google for a certain term, obviously most clicks are going to happen there, right? If you don't have any sponsors above you. So really, it's the same thing with this. When you have a BSR, that's your bestseller ranking. You want to get as close to a 1 as possible, which means you could be the number one for mattresses, let's say, as an example, right? Which means millions, you have potential to be selling, depending on the category, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of units a day, right? So supplements is one of those spaces where, you're just seeing these guys are making potentially 6 figures a day. Some of them that are, if you're in that number one spot, you're fighting for the number one spot always, right? No different if you're fighting for the number one spot on Google. But that's very, very valuable. Even if you're in the top 1,000, you're doing fine. Like good things are happening there. So your BSR, you want it to always be as low as possible. 1, obviously, and then, if you go higher, then obviously you're losing traction there. Next, we have a star rating. So a star rating is going to be us as consumers. We click on an Amazon listing, we see the star rating. So that's going to be, 1 being, terrible, 2 being, I wasn't excited, 3 being, hey, I'm on the fence whether I like it, 4 being, it was a good product, had a few little small flaws, or 5, oh my God, loved it, amazing product, right? So that's going to be your star rating. We've all done it. You go to Amazon, what you do is you look up, you see the star rating, and you say, oh, it's got 1,000 reviews, it's got a 4.5, I'm going to buy it, right? Because there's 1,000 people that came before me. If it's at a 5 and you have 1,000 reviews, and we're going to be a little suspect, or like, it's a little weird that 1,000 people just absolutely love this product. So it's not bad to have bad negative reviews, right? I mean, it hurts a little bit because I always tell people it's like, like somebody's pushed your baby down on the ground, which is terrible. Don't push babies down on grounds, just as a general rule, even if it's in marketing or anything. That's what it feels like, right? That's your baby. This is your product. This is a thing you launched. You brought it out there. Awesome things are happening. And then all of a sudden somebody comes and says, your baby's ugly, right? Not really your baby, but your product's terrible. It does this, it does that, right? Like, shout out to all the ugly babies. I was an ugly baby. But anyways, not that a lot has changed. But anyways, so that's kind of the point, right? Like what we're looking at is these reviews can be constructive criticism, right? So there is value in that. Our goal is not to remove every negative review. That's just not going to work, right? And I don't think that's beneficial for the business, because where we started at today, or where your product starts at today, it's going to evolve, right? Or it should evolve, right? And so we don't always start off with a perfect product. In fact, we don't. Everybody gets nervous about launching because it has to be perfect. It won't be perfect. Nothing will be perfect. Like I can guarantee you, your first interview that you did in our podcast probably wasn't that great. My first article that I wrote on my website was terrible. In fact, I actually held on to it and showed my students at UCLA, and they're like, that was terrible. And I'm like, yeah, now I'm your instructor. You do the math. Apparently they couldn't find anybody else. So here we are, folks. But the idea of this is just to launch, right? You got to get that out there. So the review thing, so we talk about BSR, right? Obviously you want to be as close as you can to a 1. We have the star rating, which is another situation that we're taking a look at. And then we have PPC costs, right? So the pay-per-click cost, which is, that's a term that you can use for Google or really anything, Meta, anything. Those are going to be how much it costs for a click to happen. Well, Amazon has that same system. So if you have terrible reviews, no different than if you don't have a good landing page in Google, right? What will happen is they're going to charge you more because your quality score is going to be lower, right? That's what we call a quality score. So if it's lower and your ratings are terrible and your reviews are terrible, guess what? Amazon goes, well, this is going to take a little harder to sell because guess what? You've got a product that's just not that great, right? Or at least that's what we're seeing through the reviews. So if you have great reviews, guess what? You have more people that are going to be buying. You're going to be lower on the BSR, closer to a 1. You're going to have better star ratings. That's really what you want, but it's difficult to get there and to stay there because the reviews that come in, what we're doing is leveling the playing field, right? If you get bad reviews, that happens. It's just you got to accept that as an entrepreneur. It's not everybody's going to love your product. It's okay. But what you got to look at, what we've done is we're taking a look at people that are either being attacked, right, from competitors, which is very common in a lot of categories like supplements and pet and beauty. Those are extremely smaller items, high profitability, tons of people buying it. And so it becomes easier, not ethical, but easier for a competitor to get a buyer's account, buy 10 of your products, give you a 1-star review, you tank in the ratings. Well, guess what happens? This is right before Prime Day or Christmas or the big holidays. You reach out to Amazon, and if nothing happens, you just lost the biggest month of your year, the way you make all your revenue. So that's really what I went out to do. Yeah, it's pretty scary. And so what we did is like, well, we want to even this playing field. We want to get Amazon to be able to remove these reviews and really help people. And then we look at reviews that, once again, where maybe people cussed or did something. It could be a legitimate review, but there's guidelines that Amazon wants you to follow. And if you don't follow those guidelines, then those are reviews that can be removed. So you can have a review that's a very detailed review, which Amazon wants. They want a review that you can read and you can go, all right, now I'm going to make an assessment whether I want to buy this product. If they just write terrible product, that's not a review, right? That's like, those are the types of things that we can get removed because Amazon wants you to read 10 reviews, thorough reviews, and say, you know what, this one right here fits me, what I'm looking for this product. And so guess what? That makes sense. I want to buy it, right? Or nope, this person has the exact same situation I've got going on. I have, a pain in my foot, and this shoe just seemed to be the magical shoe that helped 10 people, or no, it didn't help 10 people. That's what Amazon wants. And so we once again, we looked at Amazon's rules and said, okay, how can we clean up the platform, right? How can we take out the F words from a review? It could be a legit review, but you can't drop an F-bomb. you're just not supposed to do that. So we can get those reviews removed because we say, hey, Amazon, here goes your guidelines, here goes your rules, and this person dropped an F-bomb here in this review, and we're all in agreement. That shouldn't be on there, right? This isn't what we always kind of joke around about is if somebody said this is a crap product, it's still against Amazon's guidelines, right? But it's not as strong as the F word, for obvious reasons, right? So that's what we look at. Our goal was to even the playing field and help sellers kind of give them hope in the review system again, because it can be a challenge to get Amazon to remove those reviews. But I also think it's because Amazon's busy. I don't think it's because they hate their sellers. I think it's just they get busy. They have a lot of stuff going on. And at the end of the day, it's like, we're just here to pick up where Amazon maybe isn't as proactive on some of these. So our goal is to go in there and even that out. And we have some, like I said, about 500 clients and some amazing things are happening. But my big thing is when sellers come to me and say, hey, you like saved my business, right? Like because a lot of the times when you get hit like that, you get so low to be able to get back up it's quite a trek to get back up there. So the removal of negative reviews because of Amazon's weighted system equals tons and tons of value. It's just, finding the company like ours or knowing about a company like ours that can do that.
Yeah. Well, and I know you mentioned as you were getting started, it was hard to market because people truly didn't believe it could happen. People have been in that space for, a decade and a half.
Yeah.
Now that you have this, I mean, I hesitate to ask it this way, like, have you been hacked yet? But is there anything you can give to people who maybe are new sellers, maybe they can't afford your services yet? Like, now that you've shown that it's possible, are there things people can do to proactively at least move in the right direction? What are some of the simple things that you uncovered that could be helpful in the immediate?
No, this is awesome. So we actually have created a free tool for sellers if they can't afford our services or if they want to try it on their own. I mean, when I say this, and I truly mean this, is I just want to help sellers. So I literally have created a free tool that potentially could not put me out of business, but can help people that can't afford a business. And so it really ties into that. So what it is, I'll give you guys the link, but what it is you can go to Tracefuse, that's TRACEFUSE.ai/Amazon-review-checker. So think about Amazon Review Checker. So what this does is any of the sellers can go in there. They can go in there and put in their ASIN or put in their link to an ASIN. And what will happen? So an ASIN is going to be a SKU, right? So it's going to be like a product. ASIN is a term that Amazon uses for a SKU. So think about Target would be like a merchant token, right? So you have Target as a department store. And then inside Target, you have all of your SKUs, right? You have Massimo, you have all these different brands. I don't even know if Massimo's still around. I just aged myself majorly right there. But
Yeah,
that's okay.
I'm like, I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. Right when I said that, I said, oh, apparently somebody went shopping in the 90s. But anyways, so what we're looking at here, so all of those things underneath the SKUs are the ASINs, right? So when they put in that ASIN, that will be a particular product that we want to take a look at. What will happen is they have to verify their email address, but then we send them a report, usually about an hour or two later. And what that report does, that will tell them whether their product, it'll run the ASIN through. We grab all the reviews. And what will happen is we'll tell them their top 5 to 15 products, why they're in violation and the exact violations on Amazon. So they actually can take that report. This is AI driven. You want to take that report, make sure you review it. Our AI is really, really good. This is not ChatGPT. Like we literally created this about 3 years ago before ChatGPT.
Wow.
And what it does is we're feeding the machines, right? We're feeding the machines so they don't come and take us over, which they will do eventually, which we did a little bit earlier for the podcast too.
No fear.
You've seen the Will Smith movie. I think in the end, the humans win. No, I think we all died. Anyways, that's
not
neither here nor
encouraging.
there. Yeah, not. Don't watch that movie. Just kidding. So what we do is, and then they actually get that report, and it'll have everything right there, and they actually can take that report, and they can either give that to Amazon, they can build a case out of that. The other cool feature that we have is we have a little calculator feature. So then once again, all free, and when they get that report in the top right-hand corner, they'll have a calculator. They can click on that, and what will pop up, it'll say if you want to get from a star rating of a 3.5 to a 3.6, you can toggle over this little button, and it'll tell you approximately how many critical reviews you need to remove to be able to get back up there. So that's in beta. It'll always be in beta, but the idea of it is it's close enough to get an idea of like how many reviews need to be removed or how many positive reviews you need to get, which you really should be doing both, getting more positive reviews and getting rid of the negative reviews. So that is a free service. We just launched that just a few weeks ago. It's awesome. I mean, I did that because I'm a bleeding heart. And what I mean by that is like when I talk to people and they can't afford our service, I try to figure out a way to still help them because I really just want to help. I mean, I was raised by hippies in California. Like, what do you expect? I'm a hugger. Like, it's just the way that I was raised. So I want to help people, and that's really my big thing. And if you say, well, I need the help, but I just can't afford it, like that just breaks my heart. I mean, I've been there 1,000 times where I'm like, God, that sure would be nice to do. And God, it sure is so valuable. But I just started off, I'm barely profitable. And so then I was like, like, how can we help people without them having to pay for it? We'll always be there. So if you become extremely profitable and you get attacked or bad reviews come in, we'll always be there. Like, I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about the people up until that point, right? Until you have that capital or you have whether investments or whatever that is to work with us. The good thing about what we do though is all performance driven. So that's a beautiful thing. We don't have like a monthly fee or anything like that. So we did that for the other side of it. When I started off, I was like, man, how do I get people to commit to this, right? And first it was like, hey, give us a big retainer. And everybody's like, I'm not going to give you a big retainer. I don't even know you. And I'm like, okay, I was just kidding. Now let's make it performance driven. So our model now is that you only pay for reviews that get removed, not cases filed. So that took away a lot of the mental risk that people in their minds were going, hey, I pay a monthly fee. What happens if you can't do this? And I'm like, how about if you only pay for what's successful? And they go, oh, okay. Yeah, that works. And so there we go. So that's really how we started from a retainer-based thing we did have a few people that paid retainers, pretty big retainers. And then we decided, hey, we don't really want to do that because it feels like we kind of owe them money if things don't happen. Let's just make it performance-driven. We'll just tell people, hey, we are so confident in what we can do. You only pay for stuff that gets removed. And people go, no brainer. So that's how the thing kind of took off, I guess.
Cool. Amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned someone like you had a review or a client that was like you saved their Prime Day and how impactful that can be because unfortunately, I mean, we can have a whole separate side conversation about just the fundamental impact of reviews and how it can generate good ones and everything. So those are really the result of sabotage. But you mentioned like being able to save the Prime Day. Do you have any other really cool ones where somebody's business was just struggling and how big of an impact that made when you're able to remove those?
Yeah, we have a few of them actually. I have a few right now that they're smaller sellers. Once again, I told you I'm a little bit of a bleeding heart because I've always owned my own businesses, so I understand what it takes to be able to grow a business. And the minute you make $1, everybody has their hand out for $2. So it's like, okay, how do I manage this? That's part of being an entrepreneur, the upsides and downsides. I definitely have some clients that are newer clients that didn't have a lot of reviews. But you have to realize when you don't have a lot of like critical reviews, when I say critical, I mean 1, 2s, and 3 stars. That's what Amazon considers critical reviews. So your positive reviews are 4s and 5s. So I definitely have some clients that they only had like, 10 or 15 critical reviews. And our success rate is right around 15%, usually higher in some categories and like supplements and stuff, but let's say 10%. So if you have, let's say you have 10 critical reviews. And if we remove one of those, that's 10% of your critical reviews. Like that, you could see a huge jump. You could go from a 3.9 to a 4.1, 4.2 easily because that's 10% of your reviews. The value of that is, guess what? Now they just popped into a category and they could be doubling or tripling their sales because of that.
Wow.
So that was for me. But now, once again, we're performance driven. So if I remove one review, am I making tons of money? No. But is the impact for the client huge? It is. And guess what? I will forfeit money in my pocket all day long to help these clients because this is how people pay for their kids' college and feed their families and all that kind of stuff. And I know I wouldn't feel right if I just said, hey, there's nothing we can do because there's not a lot of money in it for me. And hey, I just can't help you. So wait, you created a tool and you're clear, I'm making money, I'm doing fine. And I can't like help somebody out and offer something that could be insanely impactful for their business. Right. And I probably won't even make money on it, like really, because we file a lot of cases with Amazon. And if you look at it, our 10%, that means out of 10 cases we file, only one of them gets accepted. So we have 9 that in theory fail, right? Which sounds terrible, but we don't get paid for that, right? We only get paid for that one. So I lose money on those probably, right? Or break even, but that's okay with me, right? Because the impact on the business is pretty insane. Now, I have huge customers that come to us and say, hey, we got 10,000 critical reviews. I want you to go clean up these listings. And that's what we'll do. We'll go file cases, get them cleaned up. and then get them up to the star rating. And those guys make tons of money because of that, because they were starting to go down in the ratings. Once again, the goal being we're going after stuff that's against Amazon's guidelines or fraudulent, not just reviews you don't like. We're not going to go clean that up. At the end of the day, if you have bad reviews, that's just par for course, right? That's just how it goes. So I want people to know that this isn't, I had a company, they're no longer around, but they came to me, I mean, shockingly, after I tell you this story, they came to me and they were like, hey, we've got these 3,000 units and, Amazon, a lot of people are saying that it's toxic. And I was, oh, I said, is it? And they go, yeah, that's why we got to get rid of the 3,000 units. And I was like, I'm sorry, say that again? And they're like, yeah, they're toxic. And I was like, so what do you want me to do? They're like, well, would you be able to get rid of these reviews so we can get our sales back up so we can just get rid of those units? And I was like, no, I will not do that, like at all. Like you don't have enough money in your account and your other 20 businesses account for me to do that. Like this is toxic. This isn't just, I mean, people are saying, and I'm like, Amazon finds out. I want nothing to do with that, dude. That's terrible. Like you guys need to bite the bullet and get rid of that inventory and figure out, take it somewhere and spend that money. Like I don't know what you need to do, but I am not going to go, I was like, I couldn't believe we were having the guy, and they were they could have been a huge client. They were what they were called an aggregator. So it's like a VC. They have tons of Amazon businesses, but I was like, they're like, yeah, we want to start with this one. I'm like, oh, you want to start with your toxic product? No, that's a hard no.
We're not touching that one. Literally.
No, God, no. Yeah, like so I'm putting toxins out in the world, like, and I'm a part of that, and I know about it. Like, no, man, I'm like I said, love you, buddy, but there's no way I'm going to do anything like that. I've these things called ethics and morals that get in the way of progress every day, I guess, apparently. But
yeah,
so that was kind of a crazy situation. But we've definitely seen some of our video testimonials. We've had clients that were attacked and we stopped the attacks, or when we were able to clean up their listings or got them from a 4.2 to a 4.3, which for star ratings, that's huge. You can, when you drop from a 4.3 to a 4.2, you lose half of your star rating. So you have 4 stars instead of 4.5. And the psychology behind that is pretty incredible. You can lose 10 to 50% of your sales.
Wow.
We've seen that with clients that come to us. And I always try to encourage sellers to be more, proactive than reactive, but that's not how we all work, right? Somebody goes and gets an alarm on their car after it's been broken into. I get it. Maybe that's not the right time, but that's okay. So I always try to encourage them. Hey, if you're at a 4.3, hire us now and let us protect that ASIN. Let us monitor that ASIN so that you don't drop to a 4.2, because that can be, I'll be very nice and kosher. That's an oh crap moment, right? Of like, oh shoot, I just dropped. My sales went down 50%. Where we're going to file cases and make things happen, but we don't file 100 cases in a day. We're very systematic. We're all fully compliant with Amazon, but we're not going to bombard Amazon. So we file, 5 to 10 cases max. So, and that could take a few weeks for us to start removing reviews. And so if you lose that and it's going into Prime Day, once again, it's better to get a hold of us way ahead of time so we can start cleaning that up. So when it comes to the big holidays, you guys are going to be bulletproof, right? You don't have anything to worry about. But, my video testimonials are like my claim to fame, in the sense that makes me so proud of people that are like, hey, like you actually saved my business. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. Like that touches my heart, because at the end of the day, if you do good like that and you keep doing good like that, good things happen. And I feel like that's probably why the business has done so well too. And that's why people refer us just blindly, is because, our culture is to help. I mean, I have my team tell them, hey, listen, like if we're not helping people, then what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I've taken a number of times to help clients, but that will, if it's a financial thing, that'll come back tenfold by doing the right thing and karma and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Anyways, good things are happening. We're excited.
That's awesome. So I would imagine that since you've been enmeshed in this world for so long, you come in and do damage control. And I think you mentioned even being proactive so that you get rid of some of those reviews that don't belong there. We're not talking just the negative ones, but the ones that really don't belong there. That's a proactive stance before there's too many of them and you drop that rating. What are some other things that you've seen since you've been in this world with Amazon sellers that people can do other proactive things to generate better reviews? Or does responding to reviews do anything? Is that even a feature that you can still do on Amazon? Any other recommendations for sellers, and maybe not even Amazon specific? Maybe you could venture into a little bit more too with just customer service and making sure that, because reviews can be the lifeblood of so many businesses, things that you recommend.
Yeah. So with Amazon, you can't actually respond to the people anymore, right? You can't write a explanation or what was going on. where it becomes frustrating at times if you're like FBA, which means it's, Amazon actually is going to be shipping it out. And there's problems with shipping. That's not a product problem. That's a shipping problem, right? And that doesn't happen a lot. But when it does, it's, products are used or they're broken or something like that. But if we're talking about outside of Amazon, I used to do a lot of, reputation management. Like early on in my days, I worked with a lot of celebrities and stuff. And what we would do there is try to clean up, where people were writing bad stuff about them. And once again, that was a business where I would go in and talk to the celebrities and say, hey, they said that you did this, 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 and this, and is this true? And, obviously I'm not your attorney and I don't want to be your attorney, but I don't want to fight for you if this is true, right? Like if this is true and I'd say scumbag, you're a bad person, then I don't want to be a part of it, like at all, right? I'm not here to clean up, I care how much money you got. I'm not the cleaner, right? I'm going to come in and if you have a bad turn of events and things happen. So that's really how we jumped into the reputation management space. Then that bled into working with restaurants and stuff like that. So we got Yelp and we got Google reviews and all that kind of stuff. So the review systems there, obviously what you want to do is you want to have a program for that, right? You want to be able to do either social listening where you can go in and use, there's like Brand24, I think is one of them, Mention.com. There's quite a few of them out there that you can do social listening, which means if somebody writes something about, your company, great. What you can do is you can get those reviews that come in, or there's other websites that will grab all the reviews, APIs from all the different review sources, and you can look at those in one thing, and then you can respond to those. But you definitely want to respond to them. What you have to do, and which is a difficult part for entrepreneurs, is to take the emotion out of it, right? Because once again, as we talked about, the analogy I use is this is your baby. You have your restaurant, you just open, you put $150,000 into it. It's going to be sort of the best tacos in all of, Reno, Nevada. This is awesome. Great. You open up and then somebody says, that's the worst taco I've ever eaten. I hate it. I'll never eat there again. And you have to not take that personally, right? So then you can reach out to them and say, you want to think about how to be diplomatic. How are you Switzerland, even though you're the owner, right? So you want to say, hey, sorry that you had a bad experience. Well, let's do this. I would love to be able to, offer you something and make your experience better. Why don't we talk about this offline? Right?
You mean
You're
talk
addressing
about this?
taco. Look at you. I want to talk about this. I got to be honest. Anytime we want to talk about tacos, I want to talk about it. Like I am a taco hound. Like I'm not even going to tell you how many tacos I had in Cinco de Mayo, but that's, don't worry. I walked the next day, so we were fine. Yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? Is like, there's like, how are you going to address the situation? You're not going to make everybody happy, right? And some people are just crazy. And we see this on Amazon and other places. Some people are just looking for free products. Some people are just looking for a refund. They leverage reviews to do that, right? And I've seen that. I had a friend of mine, a good friend of mine that opened a restaurant. This is when I lived in Sacramento. And he opened a restaurant and he was doing a Yelp situation. He had a Yelp that was coming in and doing, promotions and all this kind of stuff. Well, one of the Yelp people got a hold of him the next day and said, hey, at your grand opening, I got sick. And I need you to give me some gift cards. And he's like, well, yeah. I'll give you I can give you like $50 in gift cards. Sorry that you got sick. And he's like, no, I want 500. And he was like, that's kind of interesting. Like you're sick. And he's like, yeah. And it's like the morning after, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing that. Well, this guy was like, well, if you don't do that, and he kind of started to leverage him. And I'm not saying this is all Yelp elites or all Yelp people. This is an isolated situation, but he tried to leverage him. And he was like, no. And he actually went to the local newspaper and it actually took off, not virally, but a lot of people were talking about it because this guy tried to leverage him. Now, I'm not saying that happens all the time with Yelp or any other platform, but when that does happen, when you start using your power for negative and not realizing the repercussions of that, like how that affects a restaurant. When you write a review for anything, for any product or a restaurant, I try to tell people, like, understand the magnitude of that, right? If you go and basic example, and this one always drives me nuts because I've seen it firsthand. You go to a restaurant, you have 8 people there, everybody orders it, everybody loved the food, except Jennifer went to the restroom and there wasn't 2-ply toilet paper. Basic example. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh my God, terrible. They didn't have 2-ply toilet paper, blah, blah, blah. Then everybody at the table's like, oh my God, Jennifer had a bad experience. And now you have 8 bad reviews. And it's like, were you guys eating the toilet paper or were you eating the food? I mean, I'm just asking, right? Like, I'm assuming that toilet paper had nothing to do with the food there. Sorry that we didn't have 2-ply. But my point of this is, did you like the food, right? Like, I understand maybe that could be a side note. Awesome. Waitress didn't catch eye contact with me. Okay, I get that, right? Maybe that's something that she can work on. But to blast the restaurant and just to blow it out of the water, you got to really, really think about that. You have to have some responsibility for things that you're writing online. And that affects somebody's paycheck, that affects somebody's family. If they're terrible, great, bring it up, right? I don't have a problem with that. But if you're attacking them and being strategic about it and trying to, I'm not saying the person with the 2-ply was trying to get a gift card, but you got to take a look at that. And as owners, we need to look at this and say, okay, how do I take this offline? How do I address it? I understand I'm sorry that you had that experience, addressing the situation, figuring out the solution is, hey, I would love to be able to offer you another opportunity to come into the restaurant. I'll take care of you. Let's talk about this offline. So what you're doing, you're trying to get it offline, because if the person's crazy and they're writing crazy stuff, you write crazy stuff, you lose all day long. Nobody's going to care about, Bob that's writing crazy stuff. Nobody's going to not go visit Bob on the weekends because of what he wrote. They will not come to your restaurant, though, hands down, if you write some crazy stuff. So pull yourself out of it. You don't need to go hire a PR company or anything. Just look at it and say, okay, how do I get these people offline? And how do I make this right? Right? Amazon's different because you can't reach out to the consumer, and, it's very different. You can't, jump on a call with them. Amazon makes it so that there's a separation there. But if that is your restaurant and that is your brick and mortar, whatever it may be, you can absolutely, there's templates and stuff that you can use. If you're frustrated about something, step away. Don't write the review. Don't click. Think about it. If your girlfriend, wife, somebody just broke up with you, you have 1,000 things you want to say. Probably don't send any of them for the most part. Like, let's give it a day. Let's simmer down. Let's give it a day, a week, or 2 weeks. Let's find somebody else. Let her find somebody else. Whatever, right? My point is, don't go write something that you're going to regret. And so when I write something, I think about, okay, how are they going to perceive this, right? And how are other people that are going to see that going to perceive it? If I go in and somebody says, hey, the restaurant didn't have 2-ply, and I'm like, well, screw you. Maybe you should have taken a poop at home, and, blah, blah, blah. And I go in on this person. Now what? Now who's winning, right? Now it looks like I'm a crazy owner and I'm giving somebody a bad time. They're like, ooh, I don't know if I like the culture of that restaurant. The owner seems like he's pretty aggressive. Well, you're attacking my baby, right? But you got to be responsible and think, okay, how do I win these people over? How do I get them back to be a client? The real key is to get them offline, right? The real key is to get them to quit saying crazy stuff. Because if you're nice and they become rude and then you're nice again, then you can just put it at rest, and somebody could read that and go, you know what? That person's clearly crazy. It wasn't the owner, right? There's a conversation that's being had there that I can see and go, okay, I still want to give that restaurant a try, right? The other side of this is get as many positive reviews as you can, right? You won't be as affected if you have a great amount of positive reviews that if somebody comes and slams your restaurant. If you have 25-star reviews, a 1-star is barely going to touch you. If you have no reviews and you get somebody that slams you, guess what? That could be the end of your restaurant. Somebody comes into town and looks at your thing and says, oh, I want tacos here locally. And they said, oh, go to Shane's Taqueria. And then all of a sudden it's like, I have 1 star. And they're like, I'm not going to give that a try. First of all, he has a white name, which is no way those tacos can be good, right? And then so here we are. And do we want to make that happen? And no, I'm not going to go to that restaurant. So that's what you have to think about. Reviews are very, very important, not just on Amazon, but really everywhere. And if you ignore it, there's somebody else out there that's not ignoring it. Just because you don't go and Google your own name or your company name or your own personal name doesn't mean that other people don't. So that reputation online is very, very important. That can make or break a restaurant, a shoe store, whatever that is. You don't have to agree with what they're writing. You just have to figure out, how do you assess the situation? And once again, for the public to see, be cordial, be nice, and understand, try to figure out what the solution is, understand what they're saying, what the problem is, and then how you can address that, and then try to get it offline.
Cool. Okay, good feedback, good advice, good proactive strategy that we can take if you are running a business where reviews affect you, which I can't think of a single one where they don't. Even if you're in the online space, you want to have some measure of intention around that and generating the good ones and knowing how you're going to handle the bad ones. I do emotional intelligence coaching for entrepreneurs on the side. Well, it's my main thing. This is more on the side. And that is such sound advice. That's something I think that applies to all areas of our business, that you need to take emotion, not become an emotionless robot, but just learn how to regulate those emotions and learn how to show up and not let that run the show, so that you throw success and logic out the window and you're able to continue to move forward and build traction in your business.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. You got to step back and say, is this beneficial, right? If I was somebody else looking at this, when I read this, does this say, hey, that they addressed it the right way? Or did they come in sideways and say crazy stuff? And they go, you know what? somebody said it was terrible food and the owner seems a little crazy, yeah, I'm going to just kind of tap out of that. I don't, there's other places I can go eat. It's hard. It is definitely hard. The emotional side of things, because once again, that's your
Yeah.
restaurant. You put all kinds of money and somebody comes, gives you a bad review and really can affect you mentally and physically and everything. I mean, it affects a lot of different emotions. So,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I didn't know you did that. That's
Oh
awesome that you
yeah.
do that for entrepreneurs. That probably
We
is,
need it.
oh man, like no other.
Yep. Well, Shane, I appreciate everything you've shared, insight specifically into Amazon, what you do with Trace Fuse, and just your insight as an entrepreneur and how you've really navigated building the business, all of the nitty gritty that goes on behind the scenes. It's been such a fun, kind of double edged conversation to see both sides of that. So I appreciate you being an open book and sharing everything you have. What is the best place for people to connect with you? And then what's the website they can go to? I know you mentioned it earlier, but we'll also link it in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys can go to Tracefuse. That's TRACEFUSE.ai. Also, my email, if anybody wants to reach out directly about anything Amazon based, is Shane, SHANE, at TRACEFUSE.ai. And then obviously at my main website, shaneberger.com. You can go take a look at that as well.
Cool. Thank you again. It's been so fun chatting with you and all the value you've offered to our listeners. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.